Yo, what is up guys, and welcome back to McAdee's Entertainment. I'm your host as always, Adam McGahee. For anyone who's been following us for a while now, you guys may have noticed that we were covering issue by issue the 2015 Marvel Zombies series, which covers the Marvel Zombies sector of Battleworld. This is basically where Dr. Doom got the powers of a god and created a bunch of little battle zones for everyone to fight in, and he specifically made a Marvel Zombies one. So just goes to show that even Dr. Doom is a big fanboy of Marvel Zombies, just like us. In McAdee's tradition, I've edited all these issues into one giant movie for you guys to enjoy. Before we hop into that though, as always, I wanted to let you guys know that our superhero training program is live. If you guys are ready to get in superhero shape this summer, I did put together a free Spider-Man workout plan, so if you follow me on Instagram at McAdee's Fitness and shoot me a message or comment on one of my posts with code SUPER, I'll send you a free Spider-Man workout plan. With that out of the way though, let's get on with what you came here for, and that is the full gory story of Marvel Zombies Battleworld. The story opens where we see the infamous monster hunter Elsa Bloodstone as she prepares her weapon, rather upset at someone for spilling her freshly poured cup of tea. The monster who would dare do this to such an upstanding young woman would be a zombie, who rightfully got his head promptly blown off by the hunter. We would see Elsa was general in the middle of a full-on war with the Marvel Zombies. However, this wasn't just any undead apocalypse. This was one of the insane battle zones that Dr. Doom had created after getting the powers of a god, thus creating this era's Secret Wars. Turning to one of her soldiers who had just been bitten, the man would tell her he was in great pain, where she'd then tell the dude to man up and there was no room for weaklings in her army. Wondering why even a dying guy couldn't get a little decency, Elsa would tell the general he didn't deserve it, mainly because he was not dying. There was no infection within his wounds and he would be fine. Relieved to hear this, the overjoyed general would thank his commander for the pep talk where, oh, guess he was infected as Elsa shot the guy right in the chest, killing him instantly. Sleep soundly, my sweet prince. Elsa would turn to one of her sergeants where she'd note that the zombies had been a lot more coordinated lately and ask the man if they had found the horde's leader. Almost immediately upon asking this, the soldiers would be greeted by this leader, who is a zombified Red Nightcrawler ripoff called Red Terror. Oh man, he's not even the cool Red Nightcrawler ripoff like Azazel. Hey, silver lining though, at least this dude is pretty jacked. Red Terror would then use his abilities to teleport his way atop the border wall, which absolutely horrified Elsa's soldiers, who believed him to be too fast. This would be just another Tuesday for Miss Bloodstone though, who caught the guy between teleportation cycles and blasted him right in the head. Mocking the guy for having such a lame name, Elsa would then take out her knife and went to prepare the mutant's head as a rotted red trophy, where we'd see that he was not quite finished just yet. Wrapping his tail around Elsa, Terror would then teleport her through the skies, where she would straight up fight the man in between each cycle. Managing to lodge her knife right into the creature's neck, Elsa would plummet to the earth below, where she would fall unconscious. It is here where Elsa would dream back to her days when she was just a little girl. Here we would meet her father, Ulysses Bloodstone, who was rather disappointed in the young girl for getting knocked over in a fight by what appeared to be a small demon. Despite his little girl being only 7, Ulysses would call the young Elsa weak, saying that he mourned for his bloodline. He revealed that he had lived for eons, showing a mysterious crystal that had been lodged in his chest. It gave him powers and abilities that made him a great monster hunter. However, he would not be around forever, and it was up to his only heir, Elsa, to take his place. The girl would vow she would be a great hunter like her dad, who then callously told the child that she would be nothing like him. he had already slain the majority of the greatest monstrous threats. Elsa would have to carve out her own path as the next Bloodstone. Tossing his knife to the ground, we'd see Ulysses leave the scared young girl alone in a room full of these demons, telling her that this was her weapon, and she was to never stop. Never surrender. Things would then be taken back to present day, where we'd see Elsa being awoken to the sound of a voice telling her that they were coming. This voice would belong to a mysterious bald child of some kind who was warning the hunter of the oncoming undead. Here we'd see that the pair was being attacked by a zombified Dr. Octopus, who somehow believed he was still superior, where he then promptly had his head blown off by Bloodstone, who then curb stomped the rest of his body to pieces. All the homies love when Elsa does stuff like this. After getting that out of her system, Elsa immediately lost her composure all over again, where she then yelled at this mysterious youth, asking who they were and where they came from, where the kiddo would be just as confused, for they did not know either. Not sure or not if the child was infected, Bloodstone then bizarrely had the kid stick out their tongue and pull down their eyelid, which somehow confirmed to her that they were not sick. That's so weird. Can Marvel Zombies, just not do that? Is it like a patting the head and rubbing the tummy scenario where they just can't do it? Well, hey, I can. Get wrecked, posers. Here we would see just how severe things were, as Elsa would point out a series of mountains. No one had seen them this close. This would mean that Red Terror had teleported them over 200 miles south of the shield, leaving them literally stranded in the middle of zombie country. Stranded with limited ammo, and now an albino, follically challenged orphan child, even the mighty Elsa Bloodstone admitted that surviving this ordeal would be the hardest thing she had ever done. Having no options other than to walk, the hunter and the child made their way through this hellish earth to make the long road back to the shield. As the pair walked, the child, having more of a sense of direction than we all realize, told Elsa they were going the wrong way, where she, being the ultimate hunter and all, couldn't possibly admit she was wrong, and told the kid that their opinion was not welcome, and they were an idiot. The kiddo would then continue to urge that they were on the wrong path, where Elsa would then ask what their name was, where the young one did not know. She then asked if the kid had any powers, where of course, they did not. Seeing that she had to babysit this nameless, powerless sack of deadweight, the loving Elsa fondly nicknamed the little one the beautiful name of Shut Up. Despite Bloodstone's coldness to the child, dear old Shut Up could not shake the feeling that they were headed in the complete opposite direction from where they needed to be. We'd then see that perhaps the young one was right, as we'd see a withered, starving, but still very dangerous zombie juggernaut emerge from a pile of rubble, ready to claim his first treat in ages. Attacking Elsa, causing her to lose her gun, the brute would make his way upon the woman, where the child would reach for the weapon, with Elsa demanding for them to open fire. However, we'd see dear old Shut Up was about as useless as the hair follicles on their head, for they had no idea what they were doing, and accidentally snapped off the gun's attachment instead of shooting. Believing she was doomed, Elsa prepared for her end, only for something very bizarre to happen next. Almost instantly, the bloodstone on her necklace began to glow, where it emitted a powerful laser-like attack from it and directly into Juggernaut's face, where it melted the rotted flesh from his corpse. Just like with Doc Ock before him, Elsa ensured that the man was dead by stomping his head completely in. Shut Up would then think now of all times would be cool to crack some puns by saying that Elsa really knew how to help Juggernaut out of his shell, a joke Elsa did not find funny one bit. Hey, it was kind of funny. Let the kid have this one. The child would then ask Elsa just how the stone worked, where even she admitted that she was not too sure, for the main stone had crumbled when her father died, and this was all that was left. Seeing there was no time to ponder this mysterious rock, Elsa then went right back to her nasty self, saying that the kid was absolutely trash in this fight and would not last 5 minutes if they did not do as they were told. This would then make the young one cry, who said they were trying to do their best, where Elsa told them to toughen up and stop crying, for there would certainly be more zombies left. For seemingly hours, the pair would make their way through the wasteland, where the child would eventually grow tired. Elsa would snap and tell them to stop crying once more, where she'd then have another flashback to her father's abusive nature, where she remembered that he had treated her the same way, even threatening to feed his own daughter to a group of monsters if she didn't stop her tears. Not wanting to be like him, Elsa apologized to the kid, but told them that they needed to be stronger if they even hoped on surviving this trip back to the shield. Coming atop a cliffside, the pair soon came across quite the sight, which were hundreds of zombies marching in the opposite direction. Wondering just where they were going, Elsa deduced that they were going, of course, to the shield of all places. The kid was right, and they had been going the wrong way all this time. Telling good old Shut Up that they won this one, the two headed back, all while a mysterious beast-like figure, armed with a bloodied knife, watched them from a distance. The next issue opens back in the Deadlands, where we see Elsa Bloodstone casually digging into the corpse of an overturned zombie MODOK who was totally not cool getting violated like this. Bummed out that Major Bighead's chair levitation technology was no longer working, Elsa was interrupted by the mysterious child whom she found earlier in this story. Sensing an unending feeling of dread, the kid warned Elsa that they believed they were being followed. Delightfully yanking out a mix of metal and organs from MODOK's flesh, Elsa was happy to find some working weaponry, and told the kid there was nothing to worry about. All that was out here were the undead, and these versions were not capable of rational thought. She'd quickly be proven wrong though, after the kid gave her a peek through her binoculars, where they would spot a rather horrifying shadow creature with a staff, watching them from afar. Ignoring they were being stalked by what appeared to be the return of the slab guy, Elsa continued on with her current objective, which was pushing poor MODOK off a nearby cliff. The child would then ask Elsa if she knew who their pursuer was, where she'd quickly reply no, but not before she was haunted by the words of her abusive father, where he would tell her that wanting was the opiate of the weak. Ignoring this specter, Elsa then channeled all of her strength, managing to toss MODOK into the chasm below, where he full-on exploded, causing the entire mountain to come collapsing in on itself. Rather impressed at her own work, Elsa then told the kid that it was time to go, where of course the young one would say they were tired and had to rest. Absolutely not having this weakness, Elsa harshly told the child they were leaving, where they then asked the huntress if she ever turned off this cold and callous demeanor. This question then caused the woman to pause, where she once more reflected back during her time as a child, where she was on a hunt with her father. Taking a brief moment to look at a stuffed animal in a toy store, Elsa was then scolded by her dad, who told her to focus. Saying that she just wanted to look, the young girl was then interrupted by her father, who repeated the phrase from earlier that would forever haunt her, that wanting was the opiate of the weak. Tracking their latest monster, we discover that this creature was a bat demon, where we see Ulysses begin to profusely cough. Fearing for her father's health, Elsa would go to see if the man was alright, where he would rudely toss his own daughter aside, warning her not to help him. Looking on at her father from the frozen ground, Elsa, finally fed up with years of abuse at this man's hand, would tell Ulysses that she hated him. Briefly recovering from his coughing fit, the man would ask what the girl just said, where she would try to apologize, saying that she didn't mean it. However, Ulysses would know better. He knew Elsa meant every word, and actually commended the girl on this, saying that it was the most impressive thing she had said all day. He would then tell her to never make allowances. She was to concern herself only with protecting the good and destroying the vile, and to never make the weak and feeble her burden. Coming back to present day, we'd see that Elsa did not turn out nearly as cruel as her dad, as we'd see her giving the tired, mysterious child a piggyback ride as they trudged through the war-torn landscape. They would soon look to the skies, where they would carefully avoid the gaze of two full-on zombie pterodactyl men who were patrolling the nearby area. Admitting that it would be pretty cool to fly like them, the child then noticed that these two were identical beings, and asked just how this was possible. Elsa would then fill us in on Secret War lore that even I had no idea about, for in this zone, multiple realities converge into one, resulting in the zombie presence being in the billions. Therefore, there were multiple versions of the same being from different Marvel Zombies dimensions, all in one hellish place. God, Marvel Zombies is bad enough, but to have multiple variants of each zombie in the same location? Sign me out, bro. It's not even worth living at that point. The pair would then continue their journey, where they would step in what appeared to be a large puddle of blood. This would be far worse than that, as they would soon look up to see that it was the remains of a zombie Carnage, spilling his symbiote upon the ground to place them in a trap. Telling the child not to move, the young one would panic and fire upon the monster, where the recoil from the gun was too great, sending them into the air and right into the clutches of one of the zombie dinosaur men. Annoyed that kids today never listen, Elsa then proceeded to use her greatest weapon once more during the story, which was her feet, where she proceeded to ghetto stomp into Carnage's chest cavity, where she then tore off his head Mortal Kombat style and tossed it directly at the dino, causing him to drop the child, where she safely caught them in her arms. The danger would not be quite over yet, as the zombified symbiote would announce that it had been freed, where we see a series of monstrous tendrils emerge from the puddle and close in upon the pair. Before the monster could dine, poor Carnage sadly got once more, where we'd see a burst of flame emerge from the skies, where it roasted the creature to pieces. Wondering just what the heck happened, the two were soon greeted by possibly one of the coolest sights in Marvel Zombies, where we'd see the X-Men Angel, donned in a sick trench coat and a flamethrower, descend to the ground, wishing the two an energetic howdy. Man, people sleep on this dude so much. He's awesome. Even sporting a cool Peaky Blinders-esque haircut, we'd see that this universe's version of Angel was part of the same military group that Elsa was, and was tasked with protecting the shield in this sector of the wasteland. We discovered that this unit was overseen by General Ross, aka the Red Hulk, who somehow managed to get himself killed over 2 years ago. Man, we got Red Hulk leading an army against the zombie apocalypse, and he's killed off panel? Not cool, Disney. This one is unforgivable. Asking just what Angel was doing this far out from his post, the man said he was out surveying the hordes and noticed that a huge group of them had migrated north. He also saw a huge pathway that had blasted through a landslide a ways back, which may or may not have been Elsa throwing MODOK through that mountain earlier in the story. Knowing exactly what Elsa was going to ask next, Angel confirmed he could only carry one of them at a time to safety. Still being a good, selfless person despite her rough exterior, Elsa ordered for Angel to take the child to the Shield, who completely protested this, saying they wanted to stay here with Elsa and did not want to go with Angel, for his breath smelled like fart. It's a valid reason. The X-Man would then hand Elsa his tracker and promised her he would send retrieval information along with ammo as soon as he could. The kiddo would continue to protest, where Elsa would kindly remind them that she now only had 2 bullets left. She would tell them this was not their fault, but their best chance of survival was back at the Shield, and she would come back to visit as soon as she got the chance. With tears in their eyes, the child would say they wanted to continue exploring with Elsa, where the hunter would nearly repeat her father's words on want. However, she would catch herself, not wanting to be like him, and told the young one that perhaps they could continue this journey some other time. Watching as Angel carried the child to safety, Elsa would once more think back to that night with her father. Having just killed the demon they were hunting, Ulysses would continue to cough, where Elsa would question him as she believed him to be what she thought immortal. Dad of the Year Ulysses would then call his own flesh and blood an idiot, saying he was immortal and that he had lived a millennia slaying evil in the name of good, where Elsa would slyly reply by saying that now he was coughing up blood. Believing it was his bloodstone that was poisoning him, the man then called his daughter a fool, saying there was simplicity only in strength, and it was this stone that was their strength, and was in fact their fate. Once more returning to the present, we'd see Elsa journey through the wasteland. Thinking back to the child's words from earlier in this tale, she'd take out her binoculars and look into the distance, where we'd see the same shadowy figure trailing her, watching her every move. As she reached for the binoculars, she realized she had mistakenly dropped the tracker that Angel had given her. Wondering just why the guy was taking so long to return with her ammunition, Elsa would realize just how deadly wrong things were. As she'd reach down to pick up the tracker, she'd realize this was not a tracker at all. This was merely a baseball in a metal shell. This man was not who he said he was. Sprinting through the pouring rainstorm, Elsa cursed herself for having not realized that this angel was a shapeshifter, and now had this helpless child in his grasp. Questioning just what to do, Elsa made her way to a mountaintop and thought back to her father's words once more, that a good hunter doesn't need to track. He knows where his prey is headed. Looking into the distance, Bloodstone would see a trail of red smoke pouring into the sky. Knowing this is exactly where she needed to go, Elsa ran towards the site, saying this was totally against the rules of civilized necromancy. The smoke would soon lead her to a camp full of undead, who surrounded what appeared to be a giant campfire. She would be met by a disturbing sight, which was a series of zombified heads on pikes who acted as patrols, saying they could smell nearby flesh. The other mobile zombies would go on the lookout, telling their boss they didn't see anything, where she would tell them to search again. We would see that this boss was a zombie Mystique, who was the one who had posed as Angel from before. She would mock the gullible Elsa and was quite delighted to have this child in her custody. She had already sliced off a piece of the kid's arm and was feasting on it. She said there was something special about this flesh and was going to savor every single piece of it. Horrified at what she just witnessed, Elsa soon heard a voice from behind her telling her not to cry. Asking who was there, the mystery would deepen, as Elsa would discover that this was a still human Deadpool, who was strung up in the air with his brain fully exposed. He warned her that these zombies were different. They were smart and extremely well fed. The next issue opens where we see Elsa Bloodstone inside the zombie encampment as she comes face to face with the imprisoned Deadpool strung up upside down against a series of bells. Here we discover that Zombie Mystique and her soldiers had managed to kidnap Deadpool one night from the Shield, where every night they would eat parts of his brain, making them smarter and keeping their hunger at bay so they could make wiser decisions. And Deadpool being Deadpool, this would be just their luck, as each night the eaten parts of his mind would grow back, creating an unlimited source of literal brain food for them. Ready to immediately headshot the guy as she believed him to be a zombie as well, we'd see that Wade, despite being absolutely insane, was still very much human. These zombies took precautions with him not to spoil their meat, and had in fact been using a nearby spork to eat the mercenary's noggin when it was dinner time. Man, what in the Fallout side quest is this? Actually feeling kinda bad for the guy, Elsa said she was in a tough spot in getting the merc down, for even if she was strong enough to rip the cables, it would sound the bells that Wade was attached to, and not even she was strong enough to take on all these undead at once. A further testament to show just how clever these zombies had become. Offering to stack up a series of oil drums to try and cut Deadpool down, the man knew why Elsa was really here, and that was to save the child Zombie Mystique had in captivity. Here we would see Elsa hang her head in defeat. That was her main objective, but now she felt she had failed, as Mystique had already bitten into the kid's arm. They were infected and as good as dead. While on the surface this would seem to be the case, our boy Deadpool told Elsa to open her eyes and look through the nearby window. Here we'd see the kid, despite being bitten, was still completely human. This child was special. They were immune. Also realizing this gift, Mystique wondered just what could be causing this immunity, noting that perhaps it could even be a cure. Believing the secret lied within the child's mind, the mutant had her men bring her a machete, where she went to slice open their head and claim the fleshy pink prize inside. Here we would see there was even more to the kid than we realized, for they could actually sense that Elsa was nearby. It was right after this that Deadpool would then astutely remark that Elsa was straight up glowing. Fueled with superhuman rage, we then see Elsa's Bloodstone activate once more, where she'd gain Flash-like abilities, where she'd grab the kid and race out of the camp at superhuman speeds, trampling and mangling several zombies in the process. As the pair rocketed through the pouring rain, the child would be overjoyed that Elsa came to save them, but said they could not leave Deadpool there to suffer. Elsa would say there was no way they could go back to the camp, as now the zombies were aware of their presence. However, the kiddo would interject that they would hear how the man would scream upon being eaten each night, and no one should suffer like that. Moved by the kid's words, Elsa still refused to go back, but there was something she could do, and that was to put Deadpool out of his misery. Taking out her gun, Elsa had the child aim the weapon at the oil drums where Deadpool was being held. Once they were to open fire, the barrels would explode, turning the merc to ash, and not even his healing factor was powerful enough to come back from that. I mean, I beg to differ. Deadpool literally gets blown up all the time and comes back, but hey, plot armor is only as thick as the writers say it is. Witnessing the infuriated zombies out looking for them, the child pleaded with Elsa not to make them do this, for they could not bring themselves to kill Deadpool, who they saw as a friend. However, Elsa would have no mercy, where her father's words would echo through her once more, telling the kid that there were no excuses and that it was time to grow up. Knowing the severity of the situation, the child took these words to heart, where they decided to lock in and aim the weapon in Deadpool's direction. Coming to the full realization that she literally was about to have a child murder an innocent man just because that's what her dad would have made her do, Elsa grabbed the gun and cursed the old man, declaring that children should be children. Getting a clear shot at the barrels, Deadpool noticed Elsa's scope, excitedly announcing that it was bath time. A massive explosion would then tear through the camp, with the zombies completely ticked that their unlimited food supply was now gone. A vengeful Mystique would then demand for her men to bring the girl back to her. Surprised that the child was indeed a she after believing her to be a he this whole time, Elsa asked why she never told her this, where she said that she never asked. Elsa, are you assuming genders in the zombie apocalypse? Bigot. The zombies would soon locate the pair, where Elsa, believing they were done for, would be mistaken, where out of nowhere the mysterious cloaked man from before would tear into the hordes, swearing that these two were his. The man would proceed to brutally rip the armies apart, with the young girl noting that he was enjoying this. Watching on in terror, Elsa would notice her stone begin to glow once more. Not sticking around to see what zombie Assassin's Creed wanted with them, Elsa managed to activate her super speed once again, completely eviscerating a zombie mole man who tried to jump scare them. Sorry, mole man. You'll do something cool one of these days. Sprinting through the Deadlands, Elsa would remark that she had never felt this strong. The child would say this was awesome, but was still thinking about how she had killed Deadpool, and asked Elsa if it came to it, would she be able to bring herself to kill her if the moment came to it. Elsa would then think back to her father once again, where she would quote him by saying, "Better to destroy what's good than let the darkness devour it." So basically, Elsa, are you saying you would totally ice a kid? Man, Anakin Skywalker was wrong in marrying Padme. You two are perfect for each other. Bloodstone would then reflect on a time where her dad had even killed an innocent hostage just to take down a hostile monster, saying that a warrior of light does not concern himself with quibbling at the price. He thinks only of the struggle. While he thought this sounded like a cool macho guy thing to say, upon hearing this, the child admitted that Elsa's dad sounded like a total jerk. We'd see just how true this was as we'd get more flashbacks to Elsa's youth, where we'd see Ulysses brutally beat a boy who had walked her home when they were teenagers, and one time scolded Elsa for taking too long to kill a monster when she was just a little girl. He then forced her to let its poisonous blood to stay on her scalp, which got infected, where he forced her to lie to her mother about how it happened. Coming back to the present, we would see Elsa and the child make their way to a cave where they went to set up camp for the night. Before they could get a much-needed rest, the pair were met by the cave's inhabitant, which was a zombie Morbius, who let out his best Dracula, blah, before having his head literally headbutted off by Elsa. The poor guy literally got morbed again. As they made their way inside the cavern, the child would ask Elsa just how her dad had died, you know, with him being immortal and all. Elsa would have her theories. Perhaps he was alive for too long. Perhaps it was his bloodstone that was poisoning him. Regardless, all she knew was that no one man should have all that power, and that she believed what truly finished him off was that he eventually came to the realization that he was not as perfect as he thought he was. We'd be taken to yet another flashback where we'd see just how bad Ulysses' condition had gotten, as his body had degraded to basically a zombified husk, where he tossed a shotgun at Elsa's feet, begging her to kill him and claim her inheritance by taking his place. However, Elsa would not give the stubborn old man the satisfaction. She would leave him to suffer. Sometime later, she would get a call from the local morgue, where she discovered that something had finally killed her once thought immortal old man. She'd find his withered corpse with the bloodstone in his chest crumbled into ash. The man responsible for her nightmarish childhood was finally gone. Instead of sorrow, Elsa would honestly be overjoyed, even caught smiling at the man's own funeral. Taken to the present once more, we'd see that this child was the very first person that Elsa had ever given this much-needed trauma dump on, saying that she felt bad for feeling this moment of joy and had joined the Shield to make amends, and found herself fighting for the good and vanquishing the vile. So in the end, her father's vision for her was victorious, as she ended up becoming just who he wanted her to be. Glad she got these feelings off her chest, Elsa would see that the young girl had nestled next to her protector and had fallen fast asleep during her tale. Her heart warmed by the child's affection, Elsa told the girl to sleep well, for tomorrow was a new day. The next morning, we'd see the two girls having a rather wholesome race across the landscape, where they would soon come to an ocean cliffside. She was thinking about these recent events and they just weren't adding up. The girl's random appearance right in the middle of the wasteland, her bloodstone activating new powers whenever she was around, and most importantly, her immunity to the virus. There was more to her than met the eye, and Elsa wanted answers. Right before the child could respond, the pair were interrupted by a sinister voice. Elsa would tell the child to get behind her, where they would be met by a disturbing and honestly pretty cool sight, where we'd get a clear look at the mysterious stranger who had been following them. He donned a hood while clad in the bones of the undead, and even sporting armor, which appeared to be the remains of the Thing from the Fantastic Four, all while carrying a giant staff with 3 zombified heads perched upon it. Oh, that is so metal. I need a Marvel Legends figure of this guy right now. Wondering just how this dude caught up with them so fast, the stranger would respond to Elsa with a familiar phrase. A good hunter doesn't need to track. He knows where his prey is headed. Removing his mask, we would see that this man was the revived corpse of Elsa's father Ulysses, who asked the horrified woman if she had a kiss for daddy. The final issue begins, where we see the monster hunter Elsa Bloodstone coming face to face with the undead version of her father Ulysses, all while a zombie Mystique and her soldiers watched on. The Rotters prepared to go to war with Elsa for taking their special flesh from them, which, as we know, was the young girl whom Elsa had found and was protecting during her journey through the Deadlands, who just may be the key in fixing all of this, as she was immune to the Marvel Zombies infection despite being bitten by Mystique earlier in this story. Meanwhile, we would see Elsa confront her father, and was rather confused at his being here, for as she knew he was very much dead, where the little girl then told her that the rules of life and death were pretty much out the window here on Battleworld, and this was a variant, and let's not forget, zombie version of her mentally and physically abusive dad, where Elsa said she could care less what version of him it was, for she utterly despised him and this wretched dimension they were trapped in. Before she could fully process this Dr. Phil revelation that her dad was now basically a zombie Darth Vader, Elsa and company were then rudely interrupted by the stampeding hordes of Mystique and her forces, where Ulysses interjected that this would be the perfect moment to set their differences aside and unite forces against the zombies as father and daughter, where Elsa politely declined by slicing the man's head off. You know what? I haven't seen a healthier father-daughter relationship since that dude and his daughter in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. If you know, you know. Faced with an unending zombie horde racing her way and armed with only one shot, Elsa prepared for the worst, where she just straight up started bashing the creatures in with the butt of her gun. She, of course, was soon overpowered by the undead, where she told the child to flee, where out of nowhere the pair would witness an enormous wave of crimson energy flash before them, instantly vaporizing the monsters in their path. We'd then see this was the work of Ulysses, who was still very much alive, and was now armed with countless bloodstones, whose energy was acting as the supernatural glue that was keeping the man's ravaged corpse together. Mystique and her men would be fascinated at the hunter, for he was able to heal without feeding. Forget the girl, this man had the cure, and what they needed all along. Believing there to be only one bloodstone, Elsa wondered just how there were so many, where even Ulysses was not fully sure how this was possible, but he deduced that it had to deal with the mysterious world that they were all on. It was during his travels on Battleworld that he came across and killed multiple variants of Elsa and took their bloodstones, adding their power to his own. He had in fact managed to collect every bloodstone on this world, all except the one that Elsa wore around her neck. Saying that the stones kept his hunger at bay, he believed that they now needed to be united. He then proceeded to beat his own daughter down to the ground, all while the horrified and saddened child would watch on. Things would then cut back to Mystique, who ordered her troops to get the weapon ready, and to be quick about it, as their cognitive functions were rapidly declining and they needed to act soon before they reverted back to their typical run-of-the-mill zombies. We'd see this was already happening, as they couldn't help but mutter their love for brains at the end of each sentence. We'd then see the battered and bloodied Elsa on the ground, who swore she'd never give the stone to her father, and even pointed her gun at her neck and planned to use her final round to destroy it. Such an action made the old man laugh at Elsa's foolishness, where he then grabbed the horrified little girl, saying that the power he was seeking lay not within the stone. Elsa then lunged at the man, demanding for him to get away from the child, where in a shocking turn of events, Ulysses would then bite and tear the woman's arm completely off, infecting her with the Marvel Zombies virus. As Elsa lay bleeding out and infected, she'd be greeted by even more flashbacks of her past. Here we'd see the cruelty of Ulysses on full display, as we'd come back to the moment of Elsa's childhood, where her mother learned that the man allowed the girl's own scalp to become infected with supernatural parasites as punishment for failing to kill a monster fast enough. Confronting the man about this, Ulysses felt completely justified in his actions, where the impressionable young Elsa agreed and said she did not want to let her dad down. As punishment for questioning his methods, Ulysses then purposefully let a monster lay eggs within Elsa's mother's brain, which then caused her to go insane, where he then had her admitted to an asylum so he could have Elsa all to himself. As her body was rapidly turned by the virus's spread, Elsa finally came to the realization of who this girl was. She was a child variant of herself, and Elsa, untainted by the abuse of her father, and with all the power of a bloodstone inside of her. Refusing to let this girl be ruined like she was, Elsa promised the old man she would end him, where he then goaded his daughter to hit him with everything she had. We'd see this was a well-timed distraction by Elsa, who had little her use the final shot in her gun on the man, which would then release a series of the magical stones, which she immediately began to absorb. This would sadly even consist of the little Elsa, who said her final goodbyes to her older self, where she then absorbed into her. The power would continuously bleed out of Ulysses and into Elsa, which would basically turn her into a Super Saiyan Rosé zombie. That honestly goes so hard. I'm shocked there haven't been any zombie storylines in Dragon Ball yet, come to think of it. Back to Mystique's forces, we'd see just what this weapon was that she mentioned before, which was the corpse of a zombie kingpin who had been fused with a giant lava cannon, where they opened fire upon Elsa on the grounds below. They, however, would be no match for the newly powered up Huntress, who told the zombies to bugger off, where she then fired a powerful blast on the army, instantly killing them all. Turning her gaze to her father, Elsa would tell him that nobody should have this much power, where she then began to melt the rotted flesh off of his body. As he would scream in agony, she would tell the man to be silent, and in a cruel twist of fate, would ironically use his own words against him, saying that a child of the Bloodstone does not hesitate to suffer. Ulysses would then writhe in agony and believed he would soon meet his maker, but in an even odder twist, we would see the man had now been fully restored and cured of the virus's effects. We'd see Elsa too had been brought back to normal and believed she had enough willpower between the both of them to allow the stone's power to not only curb their hunger, but to cure them completely. However, if Ulysses were to step out of line even in the slightest, she would instantly send him right back to hell from whence he came. Giving her father the benefit of the doubt that he was under the Bloodstone's control for all these years, Elsa helps her father up and offered him a new lease on life. The man would ask for just a tiny piece of Bloodstone power, where Elsa would tell him to kick rocks and start walking. Wondering just where he would go now, Elsa said they would go back to the shield and fight to make this world a better place, and perhaps for once, seek a life of normalcy. Ulysses would then tell her that they were Bloodstones after all, and knew nothing of being normal, where his daughter would then admit this may be true, but ask the old man to simply wonder what that life may be like. We then see this mighty hunter family walk off into the wilderness in seek of a better life together.